name's Neal Sandin. I'm president of 643 Research, sort of an independent market research, qualitative, of course. And in the next 9 minutes or less, probably a little bit less, we're going to talk about tourism research, and its discontents. So I'll just sort of dive right into it. And then if there's any questions, of course, feel free to jump in. So let me do that. So, trends in tourism, with about 8 minutes to go. It's based on this article here. I'm sort of giving an abbreviated and very slightly updated version of this article in this presentation. So, take it for what it is. That is me squinting in, I think I was in Seattle at that point. My wife took that picture. And we're going to talk about travel and tourism research. So, the first part, half of the presentation, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some trends that I noticed in travel and tourism. This is based on interviews I've done with travel agents, tourism association, people on tourism associations, people who run hotels, bloggers, influencers, other travelers, and just generally my own experience, both as a traveler and as a market researcher. So here we go. So the first thing, a lot of this is talking about travel after COVID. And the main thing that I want to bring up is this idea of revenge travel, which is basically a why not point of view when it comes to travel. So it's basically after COVID, nobody could go anywhere, and now the floodgates have been opened, and I want to do all the things, and I want to have all the experiences. So what this generally means is basically, price becomes a little bit less of a pressure for a lot of people. They'll try to upgrade to business class, even not even using their points. They may just upgrade to business class because why not? I deserve it. They may sign up for excursions. They may sign up for going to a spa. I should do that. So these are luxury perks generally. So it's a little bit of like, well, I'm only going to do this once. I'm only going to go to Paris once. So I'm only going to go to the Grand Canyon once. I'm going to see all of it. I'm going to experience all the things. So that's sort of the overarching theme and the overarching trend that we've seen since COVID, though I would guess that after any sort of major disruption, whether it be economic or otherwise, you might see a similar point of view. So let me go on to the next idea here, which is bringing your bubble. This was with particularly shortly after COVID, but I have seen it in projects I've done recently, which is basically a sort of a more the merrier. Yes, there are people still doing solo travel, but there's also an increase in multi-generational travel. People bringing their kids and their parents and their grandparents because they may not, there's a sense of impermanence there. They may not have their grandparents around much longer, so they want to have those experiences and develop those memories. So, of course, solo travel is still a thing, couple travel is still a thing, but you're seeing an increase in larger group travel. And it could also be, of course, with friends and things like that as well. Next, we have longer trips. Of course, we have, the weekend trip is always going to be a thing, but people are extending the trips a little bit longer. They're actually using their paid time off, as opposed to, giving it back to the company or whatever like that. They don't want to feel rushed. And this is also related because they are traveling in groups. They are traveling with their family. So they want to do all those additional excursions and have those additional memories and things along those lines. Another one is, I just heard this term recently, leisure. It's basically the mix of business and leisure travel. And this is also happening. It's a sort of an American thing that you can always be reached by email, even if you're like on your honeymoon or whatever. And I'm slightly guilty of that. But this is more of when people are going on business trips, they may extend that business trip and have their friends or family come to meet with them towards the tail end of it, or even during the entire thing. So they're sort of mixing that business and leisure aspect of it. So again, they don't want to feel rushed. You go to a conference in Rome, you don't want to just jump right back on the plane after the conference. You want to extend it out a few more days. And you're seeing that more, and they may invite family, friends, what have you, to join them at their hotel or whatever like that might be. Another one is local treats and haunts. When in Rome, I have to admit that when I first made this slide, I had a picture of the Roman Colosseum, which is the exact opposite of what I want to convey here. What I mean here is local treats and haunts. People want to have a more authentic experience. Of course, you do want to see the Eiffel Tower. And look, kids, Parliament. Look, kids, Big Ben. That's going to be a thing, and it will continue to be a thing. But of course, you want to find that cute cafe or that art gallery that that the locals, or something that's sort of like a hidden away nook, an authentic experience, going to that restaurant that's a local hangout. And so you sort of see how the people live. It's definitely a thing. And it's also become something that a lot of hotels are now promoting. So they're like, oh, well, you can go to the Eiffel Tower, but if you go around here, it's a cute little cafe. You can really enjoy it. Or you go here and nobody here speaks English, so hopefully your language skills are up to task to be able to order whatever you want to order at this restaurant. So um, next, one other thing that we're seeing is a sort of an extended travel season. So of course you have peak travel generally during the summer, spring and summer, and then you have what's sometimes called shoulder season, fall, maybe early spring. But now that's getting extended further because people want to avoid the crowds. So people are going in the winter to see the Northern Lights. And of course, that was an option before COVID, but it certainly has increased. People are traveling in February and they're like, well, I'll just go to Australia or someplace in the Southern Hemisphere. I'll go to Argentina or something like that. So there is more, they're taking advantage of the full calendar to travel. They're not just waiting for summer break or shoulder season or things like that. So, and that's sort of extending out as well. And then lastly, and this probably is probably the strongest artifact from COVID, is a little bit more of a focus on health and wellness. So in other words, of course, vacation and traveling is a great time to indulge, but there are people who are like, I want to go on a hike. I want to have sort of a healthy activity that I'm doing, something that's more exercise, or I'll do a day hike, I'll do a go to maybe even a spa or things like that. It's not just I'm going to sit at the bar all day, although people can and should, and if they want to do that, that's fine, but there is this sort of idea of going off the beaten path of having a healthy exercise that they want to accomplish. So, I'm gonna. One thing I do want to talk about very briefly is all of these trends. These are all the trends that I talked about so far. I'll go to the next one. Is that one of the downsides of all this is over tourism. This Japan has been notoriously hit very hard with this. I had a picture before, but I think it happened a year or so ago. There's a very famous place where you can take a picture of Mount Fuji, and there's a Lawson's convenience store there, and they actually put up a wall because tourists were behaving so poorly. And there's a lot of sort of, you know, over tourism right now. And again, that's a little bit of that revenge tourism. It's like, why not? I got to do it now. I want to do the thing straight away. So you are seeing that, and that is a concern and a challenge that a lot of companies, whether it be hotels or airlines and whatnot, various travel agencies are running into. So it's a definite concern. And in terms of more recent projects that I've done, there's been a lot of focus on loyalty programs. Just to kind of give an aside here, obviously loyalty programs for airlines, for hotels, for credit cards, but that could extend as well, looking at different interesting partnerships that can be done. Because I think with over tourism, with these sort of trends, this sort of revenge tourism mindset, there is a need to think outside the box, creating other um, connections and benefits for people, for travelers. So enough of that. Let me drive right into. I think I have some time remaining, but as I mentioned here, it's just a concept, so we're just going to keep on going. These are just some best practices that I sort of came up with, and I'll sort of go through these fairly quickly, and then of course that'll be it. So the first one is keep it natural. This is more for if you're doing research while the person is traveling. This would be sort of more asynchronous research, like online bulletin boards, surveys, and this is much more of a recruitment issue than a moderation issue. But in other words, if you want somebody to fill out an online bulletin board at the end of each day, that should be their routine when they travel. And what I mean by that is a good way to check this is, do they post on social media daily? Because that means they're setting aside time to be in front of a computer and to edit pictures and to create stories. If they're like me and don't post on social media at all, probably not going to be a really good fit. And you start as a moderator, you start seeing people complaining or giving really poor answers like, what did you think of the Eiffel Tower? Yes. And then so making sure you find the right people that will sort of have that routine to be in front of a computer or be on their phone to answer these questions is really important. So keeping that routine in place. Um, Next, people are traveling in groups. It's not a bad idea to try to recreate those dynamics of group travel. So, as I like to say, if you're only interviewing one person on a group trip, that's sort of doing like marriage counseling with just one spouse. You're not getting a full picture. You might get some information, but trying to get other people seeing how they create those decisions, seeing what their expectations were, seeing where they diverge, seeing how they met those expectations, where there are compromises, all that can be very, very helpful in sort of creating a greater picture and getting more detail. Next up, exploring expectations and unexpected delights. When people talk about vacations or their travels, they tend to talk about like what they experienced before they talk about their expectations. It's a weird sort of going backwards in time. Really try to separate that out, try to explore the expectations before they actually are experiencing whatever it is that they're experiencing, try to get the expectations and see how well they're actually met, see if there's anything that was unexpected, a surprise, things that they might talk about. That cute cafe that they might have stumbled upon would be an unexpected delight, things along those lines. But really sort of separating the expectations and the experiences is really key. Um, Last, two more things here. One is create space. There's a real strong pressure, I think, for people to talk about their vacations as being amazing and wonderful. And frankly, not all of them are. Some of them are just okay. And some of them can be incredibly frustrating for a variety of different reasons. And it's really important to allow people to say that. So, in other words, I know I've had times where people are like, oh, you went to XYZ place. Wasn't that amazing? And I was like, no, but I didn't feel comfortable saying that. And so I think as a moderator, as researchers, really creating that space for them to have a boring vacation. And frankly, some people just want to have a boring vacation. If you have a really stressful job, boredom is wonderful. So leaving space for that doesn't everything doesn't have to be amazing or Instagrammable, so to speak. And then lastly, allow vulnerability. Um, Travel and the choices that come into it say a lot about the individual, where they choose to go, who they choose to go with, what they choose to do, and it can be very sort of revealing in a lot of ways. And if they don't feel comfortable opening up about what they're doing or their motivations or what they felt or experienced, they may just say like, yeah, the Eiffel Tower was wonderful, but that doesn't help research. So sort of opening up that sort of space to allow them to be vulnerable on why they chose where to go. Maybe they went to Sweden because their family is from there, or maybe they went to Maine because they have a connection with a particular lighthouse. I was thinking about my wife there. Um, Whatever it might be, sort of allow that vulnerability so they are sort of open on that. And that, I don't know if that was 9 minutes or a little bit more, but that's basically it. I do want to add one last thing that I want to sort of acknowledge a little bit of the bias that I have here. I'm sort of, white, middle class, cisgendered male, a person who is, it is Pride Month, so part of the LGBTQIA community is going to have very different experiences, or somebody who's a person of color, African American, um, uh, a woman, anything like that can help. They will have different experiences and different expectations that come into that, and there's a sensitivity that needs to be brought into play. In those cases, I may not be the best researcher on those types of demographics, but I do want to sort of expand that and just sort of acknowledge that some of these there might be other trends that other demographics will have that are not being included in this presentation.